Hello everyone and welcome to this video of our Python tutorial series. From this video we will be using PyCharm instead of command line interface because from now on we will be executing a whole block of code. Not just a single line but the whole block of code will be executed at the same time. This is my PyCharm window and I have already opened a project here, project directory here. You can start using PyCharm by just starting a new project. Just go in file menu and start a new project. You can enter the project directory here wherever at whichever location you want to start the project. It will create a blank project, and if already there are some files present in it, it will automatically include it. So you can enter the directory here and just press on create and it will open the project. So I've already started a project here. As you can see, this window right here is project window. This window shows me the directory of the project folder that I'm working on. So I'm currently in py, which is inside documents. So document/py. Now I want to start a new file here. Just right click the folder you want to add the Python file in and go to new. You can select any of the following options, whether you want to create another directory in it or any other file or any Python file. So I want to create a new Python file, so I select a Python file, and in this video we will be doing if else. So I just named it if else. So now my if else.py file is created. So the extension of Python file is .py. Just like images have an extension JPG, JPEG or PNG and etc. The extension of Python file is .py. So my new Python file if_else.py is created within the directory py, which is my project directory. I have created a new file if_else.py. Also, we will continue to learn the interface of PyCharm in the ongoing lectures, so you can instantly see the practical use of what that function or what that option in PyCharm actually does. Here is our editor window and we are currently in if_else.py file. Now before writing the code, first of all let's see what is if_else. If_else basically works on the conditional statements. As we use the word if in our English language to specify any particular condition, that if this happens then I'll do this, which clearly specifies that if a certain condition is met, if I get a positive response of that situation, then I'll do this. For a conditional statement, if we get a true, that is the statement is satisfied, we perform a certain action in our program. And if that statement is not satisfied, we move on to the else part, that if this is not satisfied, I'll do this. Let's see an example of if else in English language. Let's say if it's rain today, I will not go out, else I'll go out. Which means that if the situation of raining is true, that it rains today, then I'll perform a certain task which is not going out of the house. Else, if the situation of raining is false, which is it is not raining, then I'll go out. Similarly, in the introduction video I mentioned few conditional statement that returns boolean data type. That is, they return true if the condition specified is satisfied, and they return false if the condition specified is not satisfied. So conditional statement always returns a boolean value, and what if else does is if else check the boolean value which is returned by the condition and then proceed accordingly. We give a certain condition. If that condition is true, we execute a certain code, and if that statement is false, we execute another code. So let's see an example. Let's say I want to check if two numbers given are equal or not. First of all, let's declare two integers. Let's say a equals to 2 and b equals to 3. Now I want to check if a and b are equal or not. So what I will do is I'll write the keyword if and enter the conditional statement. The conditional statement to check if two values are equal or not is a equals to b. So I'll just put a colon here specifying that this is the end of my this statement. This is the end of my this line of command. I don't want to add any more conditions. So I'll press enter. Now see, PyCharm will automatically indent the file if you add colon. Indentation is the most important part of Python code formatting. We can write the code in any way we want, but we will have to take account the indentation of the code which we write. Whenever I use colon to specify a block of code, I will always have to indent that block of code. And that indentation for that particular block of code decides when that block of code ends. So all the statements which I want to run, if A is equal to B, I'll have to use proper indentation for these line of code. So let's say I want to print that A equals to B, and I just want to implement this line of code if A is equals to B. So I'll have to end the indentation here. I'll go back to this indented line. Otherwise, when A is not equal to B, we can print A not equal to B. Now, let's try to run this code. And the first question arises is how to run this code. Because earlier we only used command line interface and we need not to run any specific file or anything. It just automatically executed itself. So how to execute a Python code which is stored in file? How to use it? The solution lies within the terminal itself, terminal or command prompt, whatever you say. The solution lies there. PyCharm has inbuilt function for terminal. If I just click here on terminal here, it will open a terminal with the project directory already started. So right now we are in the project directory and I know that the file name is if_else.py. So if you remember, to run our Python code, we use the command python3. But now I don't want to open the command line interface. I want to execute a file. I just have to enter the name of file after python3. And if I execute this command on my terminal, I got A not equals to B. So what exactly happened in this code is I gave a value 2 to A and value 3 to B. My if statement checked if A is equal to B or not. Whenever A will be equal to B, this command will be executed and this command will simply print A equals to B. And if this situation is not satisfied, my compiler will directly go to the else command here. The compiler will leave this block of code and directly jump to else and will run the block of code which is specified in front of else, which is print A not equal to B. So we got A not equal to B as output. Now let's change the values and check our result again. Let's say I'll do A as 3. Now my both A and B are 3, and if I execute this command now, I got A equal to B. So our program works. Whenever A will be equal to B, we will get the result as A equals to B, and whenever they are not equal, the program will show the output accordingly. So we created our first if-else program successfully. Now let's complicate the things. So now whenever A is not equal to B, I want to check which one is greater, A or B. So what I can do is, I know that I have to write a block of code within else. So what if I just write another if here, that if A is greater than B, then print A is greater than B, and else print B is less than A. So what will happen here is, if A and B are equal, the program will execute this block of code, and whenever they are not equal, the program will execute this block of code because it's specified in else, because we have given the same indentation here in this if and else. So my program will check now. When it will come in the else block, it will check if A is greater than B, and whenever A will be greater than B, this statement will be executed, which will print A is greater than B, and whenever this statement is false, this statement will be executed. Now let's say I want to reassign A as 5, and if I check again, I should get A is greater than 5, and this is exactly what we got. This implementation of if else is called as nested if else, which means that we give if and else within if and else again in second layer. So in this case we gave if within our else. So this is what nested if else looks like. There is another way in which we can perform the same function, which is to use elif. So what does elif mean? In Python, elif is a keyword which specified this code, that else if, which means that we already given a if, and if this situation not satisfies, go to else, and then again we have to put if. So if I just use elif a greater than b and then put else, and if I check my code again, I should again get a greater than 5. I got a greater than 5. I also changed the code, which means that both of those code works fine. The basic structure of if else will always remain the same, but now let's complicate things with conditional statements. Let's say I want to add more than one condition for a particular block of code. How can we do this? What we can do is we can use the keywords and or. Let's erase this. Let's say we create some scenarios. We have two conditions for each and every case to be implemented. So for first case, our a and b both have to be greater than 10. Then we have to print that a and b are greater than 10. So if a is greater than 10, this is our first condition, and we want to see if b is also greater than 10. There are two ways to do this. That if I use nested if and print that b is greater than 10 and then print that a greater than 10, b greater than 10. And the other way to do so is I just use the AND keyword here. A is greater than 10 and B is greater than 10, which means whenever both of these situations are satisfied, then only this code will run. Otherwise, there is no chance that this will run. Now let's create another scenario, another case with elif, and I want to give condition that if A is less than 0 or B is less than 0. That means that if any of the value A or B is less than 0, then we have to print that some value is negative, that there is any value present which is negative. So what OR does is, if any of this condition is satisfied, which is A less than 0 and B less than 0, if any one of these two situations is satisfied, run the code. Let's end with else case not found. Now check if these conditions actually work. So in this case, when A is 5 and B is 3, which of the command should be executed? Let's see and cross check. It gave us output as case not found. So in this situation, this is the first condition check, which is A greater than 10 and B greater than 10, and both of them are less. So this statement will not be executed at all. And next condition is if A is less than 0, which is false, or B is less than 0, which is also false. So this code will not be executed too. The remaining code is else. So we got case not found. Now let's say my one value is 20. So B greater than 10 is satisfied. But if we check the output again, we got case not found, because for this statement to be executed, A will also have to be greater than 10. Now let's make it 50. This should give us A greater than 10, B greater than 10, which is exactly what we got. Now let's assign a negative value here. We got 20 here. The output which we get for this code is some value is negative. We know that this code will not run because this condition is not satisfied, even though one condition is met, but we have specified AND here, which means that both of these conditions have to be satisfied for this code to run. So this case is neglected. We go on to this case processing. We got A less than 0, which is false, or B less than 0, which is true. We just have to get one value true in case of OR, which in this case here is true. So we got the output as some value is negative. So that will be all for if else. You can practice giving multiple conditions here. There is also a shorthand version of if else in Python, which if you want to learn, you can just Google it, and if you're stuck somewhere, just leave it on the comment. I'll clear it out. However, we won't be using the shorthand if else more in this series. That is why I'm not specially mentioning the shorthand if else in Python. Try experimenting with the conditions with and or and different multiples conditions, nested if else. The more you practice, the more handy it will be to you. That will be all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and share it with your fellow learners. subscribe to the channel. Until next time.